We are the crystal gems. Semi-precious rocks given value by either their cut, their polish, or their engraving. Also the focal point of a 2013 show called Steven Universe. I, though a latecomer, was a big fan of the show, even following it into the movie and Steven Universe Future. And I was pretty excited to find out that it won our Wednesday poll. If you're not aware, every Monday I drop options for a poll on what's going to be in our Wednesday video. That gives me about 4 to 6 hours to get the video drawn, edited, done, out. And this one was a ton of fun. To be honest, I didn't expect it to be as exciting as it was, but it ended up being probably one of my favorite videos as well as some of my favorite drawings. So without much further ado, let's hop into today's video. Greetings Earthlings, I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me Stern, and welcome to the channel. While you're here, don't forget to strap on that hamburger backpack and like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff that makes YouTube happy, and let's get right into the video. Starting off, I knew that I needed a plan. I needed to focus on something that I'd be able to get a video out in time for, so I decided that I was going to focus my intentions on the crystal gems themselves, that being Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl. So I looked at the three and realized, well, we have a lot of trios in Pokemon already. Of course, we have the starters, we have the Simi and Pansage lines, and of course, we have our legendary dogs, we have our Reggies, we have our Swords of Justice, we have all these characters that come in threes, and I thought, these would work really well to fit into that type of trope. So I decided that I would focus on their personalities. Each one of the crystal gems has a very distinct personality, and while I still wanted to make sure that I get the look, I decided that I wanted this really to be our focal point. I try to capture as much of each character as I can, but with Pokemon designs and simplification to that level, there are some things that have to go, but there are also some things that can be amplified. For example, in our first drawing here with Amethyst as a Pokemon, I decided I want to play up that mischievous and shapeshifter type of ploy. That whole idea that she has where she doesn't feel comfortable in whatever body that she's in, so shapeshifts. Of course, this is a lesson that she learns and grows and moves on from, but it's one that stuck with me. So I wanted that to be our primary focal point for her, as well as introducing that mischievous type of demeanor that she's known to have. So I went ahead and gave it this ghostly body and made the hair really, really big. I also picture this Pokemon very much being able to do that spin dash move that she does, very Sonic the Hedgehog-esque, of turning into a ball and rolling around. I just have Sonic the Hedgehog on the brain right now. No particular reason. But I wanted to really focus in on those aspects of her, make them make sense in some fun and interesting ways, as well as play up the idea that, yeah, these would probably all have to be rock types. But how do you make that interesting? How do you make that exciting? How do you make the idea of all three of these Pokemon being the same typing something fun that feels like it's fresh and new? Well, I actually took some inspiration from another artist that I know, Federex, who actually also has a YouTube channel. It'll be linked down in the description below. Excuse me. And when we worked on a collab recently, Federex did this really cool type of gemstone Terra type of gradient, and I really, really liked it. It was something that stuck with me from that video, and I wanted to incorporate it here because I feel like it really adds to that gemstone mystique that these characters kind of just inherently own. So I went with that. I realized that doing so meant that I would have to make the colors a little bit darker since this texture does lighten them up quite a bit. But it was a fun texture to play with. Definitely an experiment that I really enjoyed, and I could very much see why the Pokemon Company decided that Terra would be a really fun system for Paldea. It's just a fun texture to play with, a fun texture to move around, and really gets across that idea of this fractured, segmented, rock-like, crystalline structure. So very, very fun, very cool to play with, and I'm really excited for what this turns out at the end, given not just the coloring, not just the shading, not just the lighting like we normally have, but given that overlay texture. I'm really proud of it. I think it works well, and I want to thank Federex for introducing me to that concept. You can also check out the collab that we did together. Me, Federex, and Plubcole worked on a group of Coastal West Pokemon. But for the moment, let's look at Amischief, bringing in Amethyst and Mischief, the Crystal Gem Pokemon, as all of these will be. This one is a rock ghost type, again playing into that mischievous pattern, and the shiny actually takes inspiration from Jasper, the other guards and sentries of the Crystal Armada of Homeworld. But after Amethyst, let's hit the road, because we're moving on to Garnet. Garnet, I knew going in was gonna be a toss-up, a hassle. She is such a striking silhouette as is that I didn't know what to do. So I decided to simplify. Go in and apply some of the same shapes and language that we had in the previous iteration of one of these Pokemon and move them forward. I decided that something I wanted to maintain consistency within these designs was the number of legs. So you'll notice that the Amethyst Pokemon, Amischief, only has no legs, while this one has 2, but they're both pointed. So there will be this evolution and this change throughout. Odds are, if you're noticing this pattern, you'll realize that Pearl will likely only have 1, but I digress. I really kept this very similar to what Garnet actually looks like. Again, such an interesting and striking silhouette that I wanted to keep a lot of the aspects, just kind of simplify some of the details. That ends up being the main point of a lot of these Pokemon videos, is how to simplify things in a way that still translate the initial concept and prompt, while introducing new aspects to the character and making it feel very Pokemon-esque. So I knew that I wanted to get in those big fists, those hulking fists, those big meaty claws of hers, and play with them in a couple different ways. I had to balance out some of the shapes and sizing. I knew that I wanted the fists to feel large, so I put them up against these legs, which are much more spindly. Sure, they thick 2Cs, but they're a little bit more spindly. They have no feet, they're just kind of these points. And I also needed them to be kind of the same size as the head. Really creates this triangle of larger shapes. Segmenting that up and breaking that up with the coloring that I used too really helped in a lot of ways, I think. Garnet ended up being one of the more difficult designs that I had. I didn't know what to do with her, and I also didn't want to take too much away from the initial concept, so I didn't. Kept it pretty much the same, as you can see, just playing up a lot of the aspects that already make Garnet who she is. I thought about even doing 2 different Pokemon that can evolve simultaneously or fuse into Garnet, given that she's comprised of Ruby and Sapphire, just like the Pokemon game. But I decided that with the limited amount of time that I have for these poll videos, it may have to be something for a different video. So if you're looking at this and saying, but why didn't you just put it in here? Where's Jasper? Where's Lapis Lazuli? Where's Peridot? Well, these poll videos don't have a ton of time in creation, so it'll have to win another poll. Usually whenever I have a prompt that wins, I'll throw it back on the poll as a continuation video. So that can be selected from that same list and we'll expand on what's already been created. Some of the other prompts that are currently on that continuation list are Ben 10, Five Nights at Freddy's, Undertale, Poppy Playtime, and a couple other more. Has-Been Hotel, Hell of a Boss, that type of stuff. But yeah, if you want to see more of these characters, make sure to hop into the poll. It's over on my Patreon, link down below. This is Garnot. Garnot takes inspiration from Juggernaut as well as Garnet. Still the Crystal Gem Pokemon, this one is Rock and Fighting type. It just felt right, and that shiny really brings in that cotton candy Garnet look that we all fell in love with the moment that we saw it in that heart-stopping episode on the origin of some of the Crystal Gems. In the wise words of Garnet, here comes a thought. That's kind of how I felt when going into this prompt. I had to think for a little bit, and as I have these prompts kind of in the roster of what may or may not win, I start thinking about the ones that are coming up in the lead. And for me, the one that came up when I was thinking about this prompt was Pearl. I started thinking about that one more than the others, started kind of playing with what I wanted to do with the design, and I was really happy with the direction that I ended up going. It's very different than what we see with the original shape of Pearl. Doesn't follow those same mechanics that we did with Garnet and Garnot. With that design, it was how do we keep so much of the stuff because it's such a very insightful silhouette. Here, I wanted to change up some things more so to capture the inspiration of an actual Pearl, as well as the emotion that's tied to Pearl herself. She's a character who has to learn to, for lack of a better term, come out of her shell. So I decided to put this Pearl in a clam, or an oyster, whatever it may be. And I really, really dig it. It was a design concept that I thought about first, and this was actually the first one that I thought about when going about this video. So I really like how it turned out. Very, very different from Pearl. She's so spindly, and I actually have several ballerina-based Pokemon already in other videos that I decided I wanted to make her graceful. I want to make her really look like the character, but I also want to change up some things to further emphasize the character's growth throughout the series. I also made the hair dark, which I know a lot of people are going to say, but Pearl is a blonde. Listen, the yellow was going to be a little harsh. I'm sure if I had more time, I could make it work, but with this, I really, really liked that darker color. I feel like it didn't take too much away from the character. Her being blonde is not a huge aspect of who she is, but this really allowed us to maintain kind of that overall aesthetic that was going with this character. I really dig it. I can't say that enough. This was one of the first ones that I thought of, and it's what inspired me down the road of the rest of these characters, as well as incorporating some of the elements that make Pearl, Pearl. She's my favorite character. I don't know if you couldn't tell. She has some of the best songs in the series, as far as I'm concerned. If you have a favorite song from Steven Universe, let me know down in the comments. Also, you'll notice that I didn't put abilities on these Pokemon. If this is your first time joining us, first off, welcome. Second off, I often leave the abilities to you guys, so hop down into the comments, let me know what abilities you think these Pokemon should have, and remember, they kind of all work in tandem, so it should be something that connects them to one another in some way. I'm very interested to see what you guys come up with, because I am terrible at that type of mentality and coming up with the abilities, so I'm always pumped to see how you guys work that out, and am awed at the fact that you were able to in the first place. So this is Purrlance. Its name coming from Lance, Pearl, as well as the phrase perchance. It's the Crystal Gem Pokemon and is a Rock Fairy type. Could have gone Water. Decided against it. Wanted to go more of that ballerina dancer aspect over just Pearl mean Water. And for the shiny, I went with Lemon Pearl, also known as Yellow Diamond Pearl, for this concept. Recently, I've gotten really into Pokemon TCG Pocket. It has taken over my life in a number of ways, including inspiring me to buy physical packs. I opened those on my second channel, which is down in the description, as well as playing behind me here. I'll post those a week early on Patreon, as well as do a couple live streams of pack openings on the Discord. So if you want to be caught up on all that stuff going on, be a part of all of this fun community that takes part in these pack opening videos, head down to the description, jump into the Discord, and find me on Patreon so you get an exclusive first look at those videos. Sorry to interrupt, I'm going to get you back to your video. While playing with the idea and story that comes with these types of videos, I decided these Pokemon need a champion, need a trainer. And so I decided I was going to draw Steven as this trainer. I started with giving him this really determined and kind of angry, ready for a fight type of face, and very quickly realized that's not Steven. Steven is helpful. He's friendly, he's optimistic, he's hopeful, even to a fault. In the worst of times, when everyone else decides it's time to give up, it's time to fight back, it's time to get violent, Steven says no. In fact, I don't think he throws his first actual punch in a fighting type manner until the movie. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't rewatched the show in a little bit. I kind of finished up Future and said, wow, that was a really good show, and never went back. Maybe I should. Maybe I should rewatch it. I think I'll do that. I think I'll do that after this video. But I wanted him to feel friendly. It should be off-putting how powerful his Pokemon are, given the happy demeanor that he has. So I went ahead and drew Steven in this Pokemon-esque style, playing up a lot of the aspects that make Steven Steven, like that big curly hair, the big yellow star on his chest, and of course going with that more future type of look to him. I wanted it to feel like this is not just a trainer, but like a veteran trainer. Someone who's been doing this for a long time, who kind of knows their stuff. He's saved the universe multiple times at this point. So I wanted that to really showcase through here. I will say Steven Universe Future, I think, is one of the few shows that can add on to their initial show with not a reboot, but with a sequelized series. It did great things, and it really jumped the characters into new problems and new characterizations that we hadn't seen before. We'd seen Steven focus on helping everyone else, fixing their problems, and we kind of just accepted that that's who his character is, and never once realized that this might be having some form of effect on him. So the show really, really drove that home, and I think it was a really good message that allowed us to kind of get some closure, not just on the show's story and on the series finale as it was, but on the characterization of Steven, a character who we just kind of took for granted like the others. Said, well, he's Steven, so he'll be fine. And it ends up not being the case. He needs just as much support as everyone else, and as do I, as do you. It's easy to be everyone's shoulder to cry on, but when you need a shoulder to cry on, make sure that you have that as an option too. Steven, as our champion, kind of approaches you, ready for a battle, and you battle it out. Your Pokemon go toe-to-toe, and throughout the entirety of this huge conflict, Steven is taking care of his Pokemon. He's showing them love, he's showing them compassion in a way that I think a lot of outside people outside of the Pokemon fandom can't understand. It's always brought up that whole idea of, well, isn't this just animal fights? But it's more than that. It's something bigger, something different. It's a relationship between the trainer and their Pokemon, and no one understands that better than Pokemon trainer Steven. In fact, I think that you as a trainer in this world would have a lot to learn from him. So as the battle continues, as it ensues, his Pokemon are defeated, your Pokemon come out victorious. Why? Well, because you're the protagonist, and that's just how these stories tend to work out. And in the end, you've created a new ally, which was kind of Trainer Steven's whole plan in the first place. So I give you Pokemon trainer Steven Universe. At this point in his career, he's a talented trainer, and one that's mastered all three of these mythical gemstones? Legendary rocks? I don't know. I don't know what the name of this trio would be. Let me know down in the comments. And while you're there, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all of that fun stuff, and let me know which of these designs was your favorite. If you had the opportunity in a game to add just one to your team, who are you taking? I'm always surprised at you guys' decisions, because I know I have my favorites, but I always feel like, oh, well, the other ones I kind of made a little bit weaker or weren't as good of a design, but you guys show me that these ones do matter. So thank you. And don't forget to hop into our Discord, check out the second channel, and find me on Patreon for early videos on our pack opening stuff. I will see you in the next one. Big uppies to all of our supporters, but especially to some of our higher tiers. Soren Frost, Styx TV, Jesse Badger, Teacup Cryptid, and Dan Bush. You guys truly are crystal gems and saviors of the universe. Then none of this could have been done without you. I super appreciate it, and thank you to everyone on the Patreon, on the Ko-fi, who follows and supports me wherever I may be. And don't forget to hop down into the Discord, hop into the Patreon so you can be a part of those early pack opening videos. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.